What's your secondary story that's going to push the main story along? Pride and Prejudice, Mr. Bingley pursues Jane Bennet. In Sleepless in Seattle, Jonah tries to help his dad find a wife. In Mary Poppins, Mr. Banks strives to keep his job at the bank and be a successful banker for the sake of his kids who he wishes he could spend more time with. How will the protagonist and the antagonist meet their match? In Batman, 1989, the Joker uses wealth and influence over the insane to defeat a wealthy hero with James Bond-level weapons. In Twister, 1995, a gang of tornado chasers face the most challenging weather storm they've ever experienced. In A River Runs Through It, a very level-headed, aspiring minister who's now a writer tries to keep his kid brother out of trouble and gambling. How does the protagonist and the other characters work together to solve the main dilemma? How does the protagonist and the main characters interact with each other, which eventually delivers the ultimate dilemma? In The Notebook, when two people love each other, you can't keep them apart. In Sleepless in Seattle, if you're a good person and you seek a good person and you stay good people, with a little bit of luck, it'll happen. You'll find the right fit for you. In Smallville and a lot of the Marvel movies, X-Men, your differentness is your asset, and you use your differentness to make a positive difference in the world. That's one of the reasons why I think X-Men and the Marvel movies has done so well. Not necessarily the action, but while the world says that your differentness is bad, there is a place where you can use that for good. Even if that means you leaving home and going to a boarding school like they do in X-Men, where you're around other people just like you. Creating character bios and characterization, is it a useful tool? Sure. I don't do it. A lot of people talk about it, and I've noticed that a lot of the people that do talk about that are writing coaches, and it's a way for them to talk about content that they haven't produced yet. I just don't think it's necessary because I've never had to do it. But if you find it useful, then by all means do it. It's okay. So let's look at some characteristics, right? Let's list these out, okay? Number one, what's the age of your characters? Their IQ, their sex and sexuality, their style of speech and gesture, their choice of home, the car they drive, the way they dress. What is their education and occupation? What's their personality and what makes them nervous, okay? What's their values? What's their attitudes toward different worldviews? Now that's a good one. Here's some questions to consider. Where is Russell from? Is he from the countryside, a city, a house, or an apartment? If I'm going to write a story about a character living in Nashville, Tennessee, I really need to understand that city. So what's the culture like? What's the pockets of culture around the city? What does those pockets of culture feel like that's going to feed the city? What is Russell's favorite things to do? What's his hobbies? What does he want most on this journey, which we've talked about? What are Russell's needs? How does Russell talk differently than everyone else? Are there slogans he likes to use? Are there sound bites? Is his rhythm and the way he speaks different? The way we speak communicates the region that we're from, and sometimes our ethnicity, sometimes our level of education. Does Russell use profanity or does he refrain from it? Does Russell have a wide vocabulary? Someone with a wide vocabulary usually shows that they're educated, or they've read a lot, or they've spent a lot of time with educated people. Does Russell work for a corporation or a mom and pop company, or is he self-employed? What's some significant moments in Russell's life that will impact his future decisions? What kind of schools did he go to, and what would those experiences have been like? What's his occupation right now, and what occupation might he want one day? During his past romantic relationships and encounters, what were they like? Who raised Russell, and what were they like as people? What's his favorite music? How does Russell dress? That communicates a lot. Overalls with worn out work boots or sweatpants with all white sneakers communicates very different things. What's Russell's favorite colors, and why is that? Is Russell white collar or is he a blue collar worker? Is he left-brained or right-brained? And what's the differences between the two? You can look that up. How does Russell behave when money's involved? Are there any secrets related to that in his personal life? I've worked in a lot of different industries, and when money is involved, you see a different side of many people. When money's involved, you'll see a different side of them, especially if they're desperate for money. So these are levels that we can explore in our characters. Are there any secrets? Are there any unfulfilled dreams and goals? Are there any hidden passions? What's the time period? Is it 1000 BCE or is it current day? What's the duration of the story? Does the story take place over years, months, or is it in a single day? Location, where is the story taking place? What's the level of conflict? What different struggles will be tackled? What's the research involved? You can use memory from your own life that will influence the characters, but imagine what it would be like to be your characters using biological, social, economical, religious, political, psychological, physical, and historical settings. And you can rewind that if you want to and list those out. You get an idea of those little words that I rattled off. You get an idea of that for your story, and I think I think you'll have a pretty good understanding of the story you're going to tell.